The Supreme Court burst the Trump administration's bubble yesterday, ruling that $2 billion in USAID funding had to be doled out after all. But is there a way Republicans can get around this legal warfare and actually make DOGE recommended cuts? Here's Senator Lindsey Graham on Fox proposing just such a strategy. It'll be familiar to you because I proposed it as well. Let's watch.
Here's the problem for the Democratic Party. Trump made them look bad by using humor and common sense. And the list of programs that they were spending your money on makes you laugh, cry, and pissed off. So what I want to do is take all those things that DOGE has found, all the silly spending, and put it in a bill called rescission and vote on it on the floor of the United States Senate and the House. And I dare them to vote to keep this kind of crazy stuff going.
What an idea. You heard it here first. Graham also took to X yesterday, writing, "This afternoon I had an excellent meeting with Elon Musk and my Senate GOP colleagues. It is now time for the White House to put together a rescissions package so that Congress can turn DOGE's work product into law and actually save money for the American people." Elon seemed to be very enthusiastic over the prospect of a rescissions package. I couldn't agree more. Musk responded to Graham, "Sounds like a good idea." Now, according to Axios, Senator Rand Paul first pitched the idea to Musk.
If Republicans decide to follow through on the package, they could pass it with only 51 votes. That means they won't need any help from Democrats.
Paul said he'd like a $500 billion cut, but the senators and Musk have not discussed specific numbers.
Republicans tried this during Trump's first term. They wanted to cut $15 billion by passing a rescission package. Senators Susan Collins and Richard Burr voted no, which stopped the bill in its tracks.
Senator Mike Lee wrote on X, "DOGE can't be a flash in the pan. We must make these corrections statutory and permanent."
Attorney Joyce Vance wrote on Blue Sky, "DOGE isn't firing people to make government more efficient. Let's just get that one out of the way and move on."
I'll see about that.
You know what I'm going to say about this, Robby?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Senator Graham says, hey, let's take DOGE's list, and that's going to be the basis for our package, but maybe there needs to be a little more scrubbing and vetting of that list, because as you and I've talked about, there's some doozies on the list that were not accurate. So if we're going to do something like this, and you and I've talked about this before, I don't have a problem with looking at ways to make us spend taxpayer dollars better. I think that's a great idea. The problem is it's been so willy-nilly, it's been haphazard, and worse yet, it's been inaccurate.
Some of it has been inaccurate, but I don't know that serious accuracy arguments or inaccuracy arguments have been made against the list Trump rattled off at the State of the Union or the State of the Union address. I mean, it was so glorious. It was humorous. It was funny. And do the Democrats want to be the party that stands in the way of ending funding for those things? It's clearly popular. It's clearly something Americans want, is to cancel some of these silly spending programs. But you're right, and Democrats are right that Elon Musk can't just, they can delay the spending, but if it's been authorized by Congress, it needs to be deauthorized by Congress.
That's right.
Through rescissions. So they need to do it. Rand Paul has been harping on this correctly for a while, so have I, that they can't just rely on Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And so when push comes to shove, the rubber meets the road, whatever metaphor you want to use, we'll find out whether Republicans can actually do this, because, as you noted, Susan Collins and Richard Burr got in the way last time. Now Republicans have a healthier majority in the Senate, so they could stand to have another defection from Susan Collins and a few others, and they could still get it done. I hope they do, because I think they're just going to have no credibility with their voters if they fail to do this. Now, maybe that's what they want. They don't want to be on the hook for like, oh no, I cost my district or this or that any kind of spending cut. And they're cheering at the State of the Union address for Trump calling out spending that they agreed to spend. And it's rank hypocrisy. But now is the time to not be hypocritical and actually pass this.
Well, this is why, of course, you see people like my former boss, now Senator Tim Kaine, trying to force votes on any sort of decreases, because he wants to see people on the record. If they are going to be for taking away resources that benefit our communities, he wants to see them on the record. And that, of course, is going to ultimately come into play in the midterms in 2022. All of this discussion, all of this back and forth between Elon Musk and either members on the Senate side or members on the congressional side, what it really all amounts to is that they will do whatever's in their interest because their names are on the ballot in the next electoral cycle and his is not. So I think it behooves them, I hope that they take this word of caution, to be very thoughtful and to be really sure that if they're going to make any cuts, they're doing the ones that they feel like will actually make a difference.
Sure, they should be very thoughtful about it, but there is a danger in inaction, I would say. Many of these members, Senate, House, etc., their voters want them to implement the Trump agenda on the right. They voted for them because they want them to do what Trump says. Republicans were not installed or reelected or elected for the first time in order to thwart Trump. They were installed to make sure he implements his policy agenda. And a key and important part of his policy agenda is reducing the size and scope of the federal government, reducing the number of federal employees we have, getting rid of spending that is not consistent with an America First ethos. I agree with you that there is not a political will in the country to do massive cuts to entitlement spending, unfortunately, even though I personally would be in favor of massive cuts to entitlement spending. Marianne Williamson.
Social Security,
absolutely.
Medicare.
Cut them all. This is, you think we as reasonably young people are going to get anything out of these programs by the time we're at that age? Absolutely not. It's generational warfare. But Marianne Williamson and I debated that at great length yesterday. If people want to tune into that, but I agree, you can't do massive cuts to entitlement without blowback from the American people. I'm being politically, strategically reasonable. You can do cuts to USAID without suffering political blowback. These things will clearly be unpopular. If I was Trump, I said this yesterday, but during the joint address, the address to the joint session of Congress, I would have made the whole thing just listing ridiculous things USAID spends money on. There's popularity, I believe, to do those kinds of cuts, not some of the other stuff.
So where I would gently push back on you, Robby, is that I do not believe that the American people elected Donald Trump or elected the other Republican leaders in this country to do Donald Trump's bidding. I think they elected Donald Trump because they thought he was going to do something about inflation. They thought he was going to do something about the price of groceries. They thought he was going to do something about the economics that actually impact their daily lives. And instead of doing that, he has focused on, or he has permitted Elon Musk to focus on things like cutting USAID, the latest move here to cut the Department of Education, which I do not think that there is uniform support.
Not just cut, eliminate.
Eliminate, which I don't think he's going to be successful at, but that's a whole other discussion. But the point being, he's not addressing the things that he won for. He's not taking action to address the concerns that people really elected him for.
Coming up on Rising, we will discuss the future of electric vehicles. Stay tuned.